poetry has measures within its writing. With that being said, I want to present my work of poetry, which is Tidal Wave. I'm not sure everyone is able to see. I was fortunate to have my poetry collection printed in 2020 during the pandemic years, and it helped me get through some tough times, right? I was dealing with emotional and physical things that I was kind of constraining me from being who I really wanted to be and become that educator, become that person in my community that was going to represent themselves through poetry. All right, so the first poem that I'm going to read is titled Tidal Wave, which is also from the collection. Tidal Wave is an exploration within hip hop, and it discusses who I am as an individual. Tidal wave, an unusual high sea wave that is triggered especially by an earthquake, an unusual rise of water alongshore due to strong winds, something overwhelming epically in quantity or size. A ripple undercuts time, migrates bodies, and overturned deposits plights of war and or love, withdrawn the ghetto poet's balcony, an honest brother's doctrine. It was written in blood. A vivid vortex redirects subjects. Erosion precipitates. A path clears and mirrors. Synergy. Current heave one last wish. Yesterday, affairs remain prevalent. Death capsulates time. Electric tendency surges through phases. Contemporary art remains nameless. As air stifled, time is ominous. Its dialect at bay, we tease possibility and placement, sell out and function, and buck and pass. I'm waiting for the chronic to hit our shores, see, speak our native tongue. Tweed, stones, rebels lay beneath us, must pass too. All right, so let me keep this moving. I know I started pretty slow. So this is one of my favorite poems. It's titled Vintage. I consider it an ode to Black and brown people. I just love it because it reminds me of hip hop, and it reminds me why I'm a poet, why I wanted to become a poet, trying to find myself through these poetic lines. Vintage. Orange can't fathom what Black is. I'm rooting for everyone Black to appraise their skin. The dystopian perpetuates, rivers forge mind, matter to pieces of fragment. But I'm Blacker than Black or blue fi. Kids are dancing and shuffling, but I don't have a buck to give, no more or less. I give what has been taken. Next stop, 2/5, and everything is depleted. So I usually have a list of poems that I want to read, and All Hail the City of Doom is a poem about New York City, a poem specifically about Staten Island that confronts how Black and brown bodies are being destroyed and just violated as individuals. So I'm going to read that poem. Let me get to that, page 13. All hail the City of Doom. Downtown, we bypass ditches, potholes, engraved a slender terrace, clench, stenches of grinded coffee. Boys and girls squander their forefathers' commandments. Construction workers squat aimlessly on dainty street curbs, laughing. Bay Street pimps hustle work, selling perpetual sins. We condemn and flood corners. We are all living in our last days. The unholy man rattles his cup, exposes hardship to privilege, drunk or not. North Shore. Officers unlawfully stop and frisk. Unruly clergymen push dope, strike, lie and whop, and cover it up. All hail the City of Doom, an island constructed for not us, but chokeouts in the greater America that doesn't include us.
I think you might need to clarify that image of chokeout. to them, they're not going to understand what you're talking. And I mean, I don't want to assume it, but I'm almost positive because of their age.
Right.
You might
Okay.
want to give them a little context for that.
Okay. So, living in Staten Island, when I used to work downtown, I used to pass by an area called Bay Street, and in Bay Street, an incident occurred where Eric Gardner, who was a person that is a part of the community, was blatantly attacked by the police and a police officer that choked him out. It was an illegal chokeout. It's something that's created a black cloud within Staten Island's community. And it's just something that,
yeah, it went national. It was a very national thing around this country. This whole idea of this guy being choked to death for selling loose cigarettes. Loose, you call them loosies down in Alabama. They call them loosies down there too.
yeah,
Right?
New York City as well.
Yeah, and so that's what was happening. He was in front of a store, like you see sometimes guys in front of liquor stores and selling cigarettes or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the police rolled up on him, and next thing you know, they put him down on the chokehold, and then he died. And that's what he meant by that. So that's what poetry does sometimes too, right? It lets you highlight historical events that you may not necessarily know about, but the poet is there to sort of like make sure that you'll find out about that, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that as well. So the next poem that I'm going to read from Tidal Wave, I'm going to read Discovery. Discovery, I recall reading this poem when this book was first published, and I went to a festival. My friend Thomas pulled me in and he read the poem with me, and he was saying, I think you're finding yourself as an individual and also as a poet. And he saw the transition that I was going through, being didn't have any children at that time, and my wife was pregnant. Kind of refocused me and told me that I have a different lens now, a different perspective where I could write from. And I still hold that with me. So when I read this poem titled Discovery, it has that emotional component within it. Discovery. Mankind leaps past galaxies, an odyssey, distant self and or mind, yet again found home, delivering, although absent and different, attest gravity's relations, matter and time. What is today's mathematics, physics, knowledge of self, bear one's burden, adherence, a drunk kin we grow to detest, judge, calculated space. It takes distance to apply data on Earth, yet one must cope with reality, board cosmic flights, silence, entrap syllables, release oxygen. There seems to be an everlasting tug of war between toxins and memory, both entering, never washing away one's pain. Okay, so I have one more poem that I want to read from Tidal Wave. It's Recollection of the Gold Coast. It's the final poem within this chapbook as well.
What's the Gold Coast?
The Gold Coast. So the Gold Coast is.
I know. I mean, you have to. This is you teaching too now.
Right, you're right about that. So this poem, it's part of my lineage. Right, it discusses the exit that Ghanaians had to deal with in the area, right? Because I'm creating an image within this, and I also don't want to give too much into the poem. So there's a part in Ghana, right, when you're leaving the castle, and it's titled, if you see on the big door, it's where the slaves left and they became, I want to say, the individuals that were part of Ghana that were enslaved, they left this door, right? And that was the image within my mind when I was creating this poem. So I was writing to Ghana and also writing through my lineage and discussing the imprint of Ghana within my poems.
So listen, young ladies, are you familiar with anything about the slavery, the slave trade? Yeah. Have you heard about Ghana being like Casa Cabo, where they actually had to go through this little place and they were sort of like led them to ships and then, sail to America. You understand that, right? So that's what he's talking about. That's the place where he's from. And so, what's the name of that place? Cabo? Was it Casa Cabo? What, I'm not pronouncing it right. So don't hurt me. Don't hurt me, man.
No. So what I'm talking, you're talking about the castle alone?
Yeah.
The door of no return. That's what I'm.
Right. That's what I
Yeah,
mean. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
it's all right.
Yeah. So get me straight now.
All right. So the poem is titled "Recollection of the Gold Coast." I'm we, the dream resurrected, the case, trial, and verdict, guilty of all counts. Fear, religion frightens sap souls, while faith breeds eternal forgiveness. I am we, a tired fist peering through night, capturing fearless panthers, piercing roars. A movement, offsprings to kin. United we stand, but man clings on fear, illusion, separating mankind from humanity. I am we, Cape Coast, where tender hands were battered into dusty stones. I am we.
Okay. All right. There we
To the
go.
side. All right.
Yeah.
So I have some newer work, a newer collection that I've been working on the last few months. So I'm going to start here. I have a much longer poem. I want to consider it a prose poem. And it's also just.
And so what do you mean? What do you
A
mean when you
prose
say
poem is
what's a
more.
prose poem? What's a prose poem?
So it's more so it has a narrative driven within it, right? The narrative more so a story that's attached within this poem. It still has the poetic sound and it has those meters that are included with the poem, right? With their structure.
Yeah.
But I have it still set up where it has that narrative that is the title of the poem is Dear Elected Official, whereas a poem addressing the officials, whoever those people could be, someone in government, the judge, right? And it's discussing how it feels and the correlation of this person or individual that's being removed from society.
Got you. Okay.
Dear elected official, man walks on moon. Gender is a construct created by leaders of the imperialist. Man awaits his trial date. Man fighting against state, city, and union. Conflated memories, distant brothers sending letters, recoils the heart. Man sits and waits. Actually, man is the case. Trial number 911, 911. Please come save us, or man. Trial begins awkwardly. Defendant, now dependent on instructional actions, is up against a tsunami of lies. Facts. A brother tilts his cat backwards. Facts. Let a brother go. Scream, shout, jump. They won't release man from the physical and mental purgatory. Prosecutors. Reminds man he's an animal, the one that needs to be studied, detained, and ruthless, lifeless. Forget all about him, baby. Man is nothing, and he's not coming home. The church won't miss him. Societal wounds harm its most beautiful creatures. An animal, a mammal, an insect scurries a canvas. Artists are broken into many little pieces. Fundamentally sound craftsmen work are aligned with government funding. Man, oh man. Love is a four-letter word most will never see outside of a prison. Imprisoned by law-abiding citizens. Man, too much gin. Man, too much fun. Too much conspiring instead of living a dainty perfection. Brother man is working on a manifesto. His pillow, a hard steel floor. Once boy, now man. Bewildered, he prays, now prayed. Find no use of religion. Man is walking on the moon. Satan is a devil worshiper's ally. Raises the bar and men will find another route inside. A mesh hall gets dirty like southern discomfort. Man walks back to his cell. Man thinks about all the things he did right as a child. Childless, lonely. Creator introduces a counterpart, woman. Cherry red lipstick screams vanity. The guard bangs on the cell door, allows his keys to serenade the madman to sleep. There's no sleepless evenings of American dreams. Reality is frightening. Motion to the motionless.
Okay, good. I see you, boss.
All right, so I still have a few more
Okay.
poems.
Take about 10 more minutes at the most, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
just give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, so like I said, these are some of the newer poems that I've been working out. Fortunately, I have this one poem that was published by Stonewall. The poem is titled The Lord's Prayer. Discusses my time transition from Staten Island to Syracuse, being adjusted here with my wife's family, which is my family as well. The Lord's Prayer. Behind the bench, streetwalkers bypass occupants inside cars. Trucks matter in space. Calculates distance, seem to separate us. People are debating by a vacant church building, the roof weathered blue like Lady Liberty. There are windows here. An idle bench occupies a man, flaring arms towards us. He sits silently. Violence seems to be a form of communication. Back to the wall, a building stands stone cold. Steve could be a name. A name is to kinships of beginnings. Today, his legs bend by the crease of dawn. Perplexed, I watch him live beneath us, our land, a field of dusty green grass. It stops there behind Graham's kitchen. Mints replenish tiny gardens. Through a window, I see him. Hopefully, we exchange sights of acknowledgments. A poem reveals syntax, breaks in line placement, begins to develop voices embedded in heads of crazy ones. Exhibit A speaks out of bottled up hands. Between us, nets collect time and dust. A street cat hisses, the older cat mingle aimlessly by the lobby. They, like us, are looking for a good time. Okay, transitioning to another poem. One of my newer poems is titled A Letter to Martin. Okay, A Letter to Martin. Deepen the ugly process of deprivation of waste. Martin had a dream with Allah as witness. We shall see it through. And Gina, not my mama's biscuits, or story of horticulture's perseverance. Bloom, by spring and summer thorns reveal. Regret, love, bewilderness, best served cold. Our friends are all Black. Some are white. Some sing poems to us. Others are doomed by an island. We separate from things that no longer serve us. Skin smooth as shea butter, baby number 2 is inclined to see us much sooner than we think 4 letters will save us. Secrets are like friends and family living within chaos. We have what is essential, a kid to God, a son of Jehovah. Rest in his benevolence. The evening sun purchase our skin. A mother calls out. A father says goodbye.
Okay.
All right, we're moving on. We're moving. All right, so another poem that I have is an ode to my neighborhood, the neighborhood that I'm
It's
from.
an ode.
An ode is a poem, is a dedication, right? So I'm dedicating this particular poem to my neighborhood. The neighborhood is Grandview in Staten Island. Love my neighborhood. So many memories rush back into me. And I think that's also helps who I am as a poet, right? Now I'm able to relive these moments and be able to write them down from my perspective.
Right.
Grandview. Most of my friends never met their fathers. I recall witnessing a man fly from the top of a housing building like doves perish in a movie. When one is forgiven, a world will remain solid with choices. B-ballers are earning before sundown, the narrative of a broken home. Street lights become constructs, a shooting star plunge. Boys in the back are beating tambourines to smithereens. Hell has no fury on earth. Okay, so I have one more poem. This poem is titled A Prayer Song. I remember when I wrote this poem, this was during the global pandemic. or how they would consider it the national conversation in TV and the media would consider it the civil unrest, right? So I wrote this poem because there was these emotions that were bottled up in me, and I felt like I need to get this out so I could get to the poems that I really wanted to write. A prayer song. A shooting star plunge. Boys in the back. Hell has no fury on earth. Even the woo exited the chambers. There is no solace in an island. Killer bees ain't no different from the motto protect and serve. We say no justice, no peace. One, baby left for dead. The island speaks of death and dismay. Let us all not perish or take an oath. Hold the line because mama's on the phone, begging for her child to come home. Two, America ain't shit peaceful here. We rather stay dangerous. Don't wait on said freedom comes in forms of liberation. There's no forgiveness for 400 years of tyranny. Brooklyn, why you so gentrified? Hipsters, hedge fund babies are activists. What about my smile? I don't have 1 second to give a reason why I'm unarmed.